Okay, today on the Ace of Spades, we have Donnie Tuttle. Donnie is a business consultant. He's the founder of the Do Leadership and host of Purpose Driven Executive. Donnie, welcome to Ace of Spades.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me, brother.
No problem. Before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about your experience and your background?
Ooh, that's a loaded question, David Mitchell. Many years ago, I was in a group of people, and someone said something that kind of rattled my cage, and they said, "You're here for a purpose." I knew it to be true. It's been the exploration of that really that's changed everything. I've had some highs and had some lows. Currently, we just got back from a 2.5-year tour of this hemisphere where my family of 10, we have 8 children. We traveled and moved from home to home every 3 months, all around America and Mexico. And so we just finished that. And for the past few years, I have been coaching and just growing people of purpose, leaders of purpose, all over. I wouldn't say the world now, but definitely the country. So
awesome. Just like the traveling part. Laying the foundation for the interview, could you define leadership and how exactly it ties into purpose?
And how it ties into
your purpose, like how they fit together.
So I think leadership is like the simplest form. My background as a school teacher, it's like the one in the front of the line, right? It's the guy who goes first. In regards to purpose, I believe that when any of us, I think we all can be leaders regardless of our title, but when any of us functions in our purpose, that we actually free others to do the same. So I think leading oneself in connection with their own purpose, is what unleashes awesomeness on the face of the planet.
Okay. How would I find my purpose if I'm not sure if I'm operating in my purpose, or if I'm already in a career and it's just not it? How do I identify my purpose?
So are we talking professional purpose, David, or life purpose?
I'd say
when you say that, because it's going to depend on your translation of that in terms of my connection.
I'd say ultimately life.
Life, yeah. I guess it's a little bit of a, I wouldn't say a trick question, but it's for me, I think they're wrapped up in one. And by the way, I would say I bumped my head against that question for many years, and that actually led me to developing something I've recently developed, which is essentially I've created a simplistic way of making this complex, almost cloudy, ethereal thing and taking it and making it something practical. But if you're asking me how to do it, I would connect you to what I call the purpose map. And the purpose map essentially helps you to connect with who you are as a human being, who you already are, what you already have, what your belief systems are, what your characteristics are, how you interact with people and problems and stress and all of those things. That's your persona. And when we have that and then look at the gifts and talents, these are things that you excel at, you're better at than other people. And then we look and we see how can those serve other people. I call it your noble cause. So a way that you can actually serve other people that excites you, but also loosens them to live lives of greater freedom and joy, or whatever your mission is. If you take those three and line them up, there should be some actions that connect with that. But that's a pretty good start.
That makes perfect sense. Pertaining to passion and having that as a skill, as far as weighing them out, saying, okay, is passion more important than skill? Because one of my greatest memories of you when we worked together is I could always see a genuine love for what you were doing. It made me you could have convinced me of anything. And to this day, I still think you're the greatest sales coach I ever had. And
thank you, man.
I could literally see your passion shining through, and it made me not question like anything you said. Like I just genuinely believe that you cared, and that made me it added value to whatever you were saying, because I believe that you had my best interest at heart. So would you weigh out saying that your passion for what you're doing, as far as that being more important than leadership, or would your skill just translate and you'd be able to lead a team even if you weren't that passionate about it? Okay.
Yeah, great question. It's interesting that you ask that, because first off, I think that in our younger life, we need to become skilled at as many things as we can. You're not going to know what you're passionate about. Usually passion becomes ignited by things that you realize you're good at. So I think that skill deserves its space, whether or not we have passion. However, there comes a time where we can actually combine that skill with who we are to impact people in a powerful way. And so it's interesting that you mentioned a word that I actually relate to deeply, care. I'm going to pull up, David, I'm gonna pull something up for you. I'm gonna share it with you. Let's see if it'll let me share my, oh man, well, it looks like it won't. So, but on the map that I've created for myself, my persona, one of the things and ways that I interact with people that allows me to unleash purpose in them, care is one of my biggest words. Let's see, I can read it from my wall. I am the caring, fun guy, the adventurer, purposeful, genuine, joyful guide. Those are the words that I use to describe myself. And when I'm in that element, David, I'm so much better than when I'm functioning like someone else. Now, let me give you the someone else that I would function as in the world of sales. So, and maybe you've done this before as well, but for years, I was the phone warrior. I would do what no one else would do so I could have the things that no one else would have. And I would just barrel through and muscle through whatever it is that I had to do. And it's interesting that whenever I wore that, which was not the natural version of me, whenever I did that, I came home and my face wore it too. And it took me many years to realize that even if I were to transform it into the world of prospecting, I was much better not being the serious doctor, not being the warrior tough guy, but being the fun guy, the caring guy. And in my world, I've impacted people most deeply when I've been the most sincere version of me, which is fun and caring. So when you mentioned that actually kind of lit me up a little bit, man.
I like that, operating in the most sincere version of yourself. I like that a lot.
Because David, I think that like when you're in sales, I'm just going to use sales for an example. I know that you lived in that world. What you walk in the door of most companies and they're going to hand you what in sales? Like after your comp plan, you're going to get a script.
Right.
And they're going to say, I don't care what you think or what you say. I want you to get that script. And I was guilty, man. I would say, I probably told you, David, go through this 100 times. I'd probably still say the same thing. But there's another script. And the reality is you could practice a script 1,000 times, but unless if it was not in alignment with this other script, it would never work. And that script it's what we tell ourselves about ourselves. It's our internal script. And so too many times we try to get the outside thing correct, whether it's in leadership or sales or whatever. We've got books. I read books all the time, and these books want to tell you what to do. But if it's not in alignment with that internal script, it ain't gonna work. Your brain's gonna wipe it free, and you're just gonna keep on going.
I like that. That's a whole other topic in itself. I like that a lot. Okay, and speaking of going into businesses, when you, as far as do like a consultation for a business, what often are you seeing that's, I won't say wrong, but that they're not doing correctly or that they can improve on?
It depends on the business. One of the things that I see that happens a lot, especially with leaders, they're told to build a team. recruit, hire, train, retain, recruit, hire, train, retain. And it's like this, there's a machine. And, machines are great for building cars and for doing multiple things, but machines are not great for creating organisms, or creating something that's organic, that's connected. And I believe that teams, groups of people, this has to be an organic thing. And so rather than building whoever has the degrees or whoever has interviewed with the talent, and I'm not disregarding those things, we need degrees and talent and that. But the reality is, most people are recruiting, they're putting butts in seats in many industries. And they churn, they just bring massive amounts of people through. They blow most of them out in their first year or two. And the reality is it takes a lot of time, effort, and energy and money, a lot of resources to do it that way. And so I find that most people are not hiring correctly because they haven't figured out who they are. They say, oh, well, we're a mortgage company, or we're an insurance company, or we sell technology, or this is who we are. That's not who you are. And going back to what I said a little while ago, that every person has to identify their noble cause. I believe every company needs to define that, but also every leader. That when you're a leader, there's a reason why you're walking through those doors. And if it's because you need a paycheck, that's an okay start. That's not a career, baby. We got to do something else. If you're in the middle of a place and it lights your fire, or at least a part of your fire, that's the place you build a team around. You begin to vocalize that, to say that, to find that, and then you put it out there, and it becomes what I believe and what I've seen is it's a magnet that brings in the people who are attracted to that, and it repels the people who are like, nope, I'm not that's not me. And I believe that we can build teams that we're in love with showing up to work with.
I like that. It kind of strengthens the culture as well.
That's 100% culture. You have to put a heart, we've got to have a heartbeat for this thing before we do anything. And people don't leave, companies, right? They leave leaders. And the leaders that they're leading are the ones that can't create a why. They can't create a culture. They're not competent in that. And a lot of times it's because, again, sometimes we have to manage up. We have to lead up. But the reality is it takes someone to be brave and courageous, really to go a little bit outside of, here's what's in a book. Here's what's in the manual of how to do this. And someone who actually can believe that, no, I think I have a reason to build this. I think I can find the people to build this, and doing it that way. Because when you bring in people who are attached to the same vision as you are, it's like when you go to have you been to a baseball or football game anytime in the last year or so?
Absolutely.
Okay. And there's one moment where everybody and the whole crowd is joined together in unison.
The anthem?
It's the anthem. And it's basically, when it comes up, and there's some nostalgia and there's all these things, but it reminds us all that we are on the same page. We're all Americans. We have a similar core value, core mission. And rather than just having these stale mission statements that hang around, how about having something that's more like an anthem that actually calls people, and after they've been called to you, actually gets to you see it, you speak it, and when you say it together, we realize we are on the same page. There's a reason I'm with you, because we believe the same thing. Let's go get it.
Wow, I love that. Instead of a mission statement and anthem. Wow, I'm gonna write that down. And reverse engineering what you were just said, because I was going to ask you about changing the culture. So with that directly, so changing the culture reflects more so on the leadership, you would say, as far as not the actual people. Are the people just a reflection of the leadership?
Yeah, I mean, I think in any area, it is leadership. It's just like, so we have 8 children, 7 of which have been at my house here this weekend, right? Big family weekend here. I'm not sure when you're airing this, but it's Thanksgiving weekend. And, the reality is a lot of them, like several of them are grown and so they kind of get the culture. But I know that when dad's not home and mom's not home, which we're not always home, pandemonium is going to happen. It's like you don't know what the house is like. But if mom and dad are home, if we're the first ones up, if we're putting everyone to bed, like there's almost no room for anything to go wrong. The same is the case literally in meetings. If you're a leader and you're like not the first one to show up at meetings, you're missing it. You're not setting the tone, right? If you are not constantly speaking to your people, you're missing it. And the way that your culture is a direct reflection of how they have been allowed to be. I get it, a lot of, especially like newer companies, we haven't figured out like what we really want. And so people are going to be on their default. Well, I'm going to tell you, default is usually not good. It's not where we want to be. So yeah, a leader has to think through that stuff. Figure it out and reflect it and be it before anyone else.
Like that. And, if a company is more so newer and or expanding and they're appointing new people that were successful in sales and like, hey, you're great at sales, so now you're going to be the director. You're going to move from the position into a leadership role. What is some characteristics or some things that they can do as far as to connect with their peers, as far as to like lead them in the next direction, or more in the direction as far as in making progress?
So are you saying like bringing in new people when you're moving up the phases of entrepreneurship, when you're no longer a one-man band, but then you're going to 3 to 5 person operation?
Correct.
Okay. I hope I'm answering your question this way. You can redirect me if not. I believe that you start, if you're that leader, you're the entrepreneur, you're the one that's starting this thing. You need to, when you get about 70% of the place where you think you're ready, don't wait till you're ready. Wait till you're about 70% there, and hire someone to do the things you don't like. Now, sales is a big one. I believe that that's something that we need to have. But I will say that most entrepreneurs fill that role themselves, and so that doesn't necessarily need to be the first person you hire. Bring someone on who can do the things that you don't want to do, so you can live in your zone of genius. That person also needs to be in the same place of where you're at in terms of what you believe. So like that anthem, I think is super important. So that when you're working and times get tough and I don't know, maybe you're working a little bit longer, or something flares up, something happened that shouldn't have happened, which does a lot with any business, but it's very noticeable in a smaller business, that people aren't scared away or offended because there's a greater mission, a greater vision, something bigger than themselves. And I think that's where we start.
Okay, that. And with I want to ask you another question pertaining as far as like with sales. If you're changing the culture of your company, and your most successful salesperson is also, you find out with the new culture, is also more so not aligning or to the company in the new direction that it's heading, how would you redirect that situation other than saying, okay, hey, you're our best salesperson, without shooting yourself in the foot and saying, get rid of it? I know that's a tough choice to make, but how would you redirect that?
So I would say this, that my vision for culture is going to be more important than anything else in front of me. So therefore, I would be willing to sacrifice that person. It's almost like a new head coach shows up, right at a new football team, and you've got a star prima donna. We just saw this last year with Antonio Brown. Right? He was cut again by the New England Patriots. It's ended up in the with the Raiders, and we saw how that situation ended up. I would be willing to cut Antonio Brown. That being said, I don't want to lose talent if I don't have to. So I'm going to do many things to see if I can get them in alignment with my dream and my vision of what we want for our culture. And really the way that I would do that, David, is I want to find out what their vision is. I want to find out where they're going. I want to find out what motivates them. And it's possible that giving them a place in leadership might work. It's possible that might actually backfire. It's, if I give them opportunities maybe to speak, to be teacher's helper, right? To be able to train, to do whatever, maybe even increasing, pay in certain scenarios. If I create a mentorship program that utilizes their strengths, a lot of times I've found that can actually re-engage these people. If it cannot, then it becomes directive and imperative for me to say, listen, here's the deal. It looks like we're just going two different directions, David. And that's okay. I mean, you're a talented person. I'll recommend you anywhere else. But our culture is going here. This is the way we're going. And all of the indications I'm seeing show me that you don't want to go along with us. Am I hearing you correctly? And if they're willing, if they're like, no, I want to stay, then now I've got I don't want to say I've got the buttons, but I'm like, there's an accountability that you've now surrendered to me.
Right.
Right. But ultimately you have to give that up. I have to, the high producer has to give that up. That's not something I can come in and demand and take, or else you're going to find yourself butting heads and you're just going to have to cut them. And I don't think that's the optimal thing to do. Although I will say, the Chinese proverb, kill one, educate 1,000. And so when you're bold enough to get rid of that one, it shows your people that there's no one above them. I've seen it happen both ways. Ideally, culture is king, right? It is sacred, and at all costs, it has to be preserved or created. But I don't think that means you always have to get rid of the difficult one. Just need to understand them.
I like that. Awesome. That's amazing, Donnie. And another question is, how would people, as far as with your podcast, how would people get in contact with you? Did I lose you?
You broke up. I think you were asking me, how do people get in contact with me?
Correct.
Yes. Yeah, man. They can, if they just go to DonnieTuttle.com, they'll see I have stuff for the family, I have stuff for sales, I have stuff for leaders, and that's DonnieTuttle.com. And man, if anyone wants to engage with me there, that's awesome. If anyone's interested in creating productivity through purpose, they can go. We have it's basically for a week. I'm allowing free entry into that class that I will be charging $200 for here upcoming. So if anyone, it's a 13-session video course that will help you to figure out your purpose and begin walking that way and take actionable steps. And it's just one of those sessions where I get with you as a virtual coach and help you to answer some deep questions that I think if you haven't done in a while, you've been itching to do. So yeah, that's something that's there right now.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I definitely want to thank you for your time. Definitely did amazing today, and I definitely have some insight. And I appreciate it, and hopefully have you on again soon.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, David.
All right. Thank you.